You're listening to the Radical Ideas Podcast. Episode 6, Static. We start off in Dakota City, and we're introduced to Virgil Hawkins. He is a teenager attending McDuffie High, and he wakes up in the morning to get ready for the day. He heads into the bathroom, he gets ready, he gets changed, he slides down the stairs, passing his disgruntled older sister, Sharon, before coming down to the main room where their father, Robert, has prepared dinner for his 2 kids. As Virgil and his sister finish their breakfast, they head out to walk to school, which is luckily not very far away. And as they're headed there, Virgil meets up with their across-the-street neighbor and his best friend since childhood, Richie Foley. Richie and Virgil head to school, and we see that their dynamic is very much like Mark and Williams from Invincible. But as they are all walking to school, we see a heavy presence of gangs in the area. And as one car drives by, looking at the boys with intent, another boy walks up next to them and throws his arm around Sharon's shoulders. And we are introduced to her boyfriend, Adam Evans. He takes one look at the men in the car, they take one look at him, and they drive away, seemingly scared. The group get to school and go their separate ways, and this is when Richie and Virgil are accosted by their bully, a boy by the name of Francis Stone. Francis is there to collect his payment for not beating the 2 up this week. It is his homework done by Richie. He takes the papers from Richie's hands, insults the boys, and leaves. Francis is a total douche. We see the boys attend their day at school, are introduced to their regular schedule, and then the final bell rings and they get to go home for the day. But as they are going, we see Adam Evans hop in to a big purple car. It is being driven by the leader of the gang that Adam is in, his older brother, Ivan. He urges his younger brother to get in the car, and they head out. And we follow them through the city. We see that Dakota City is struggling, and gang violence is on a rampant rise. During the drive, Adam tries to play the song Rubber Band Man by the Spinners, but Ivan angrily turns it off, urging his brother not to play their dad's stupid music. As they continue driving, we see them pass Francis Stone, and we see that Francis is in a gang as well, a white supremacist one. Francis's gang all yell and make threats at Ivan and Adam, and this infuriates Ivan. Their gang is new. It is the remnants of their father's old criminal crew that Ivan took over and organized. But with their numbers being so low and their leader being a 19-year-old high school dropout, this gang does not get the respect that Ivan believes they are due. And that is why Ivan is planning something big. Despite being a high school dropout, Ivan Evans is incredibly intelligent. And upon reaching their headquarters, Ivan sits down with the rest of his gang and explains the plan that he has already laid into motion. He has been manipulating the other gangs. Their crew has recently been pulling off weird jobs that none of them could explain. And Ivan tells them that all of these were essentially frame jobs. He has managed to piss off almost every single gang in Dakota against each other. and he is going to instigate an all-out gang war, which he refers to as the Big Bang. None of the other gangs know that everyone is going to be there. Only they do. So Evan wants his people to go out and recruit as many people as possible. He doesn't care who they are. If they can hold a gun, they are on their side. He intends to wipe out as many of his competitors as possible in one fell swoop. We see the rest of the gang cheer for this plan, but we see Adam hesitant and a little scared. And we cut back to the Hawkins house. It is a new day. Virgil gets ready once again. We see him repeating the routine that we are now used to. But this time, when he and Richie get to school and are accosted by Francis, Adam steps in and forces Francis away. Francis and Adam lock eyes in a death stare, with Francis telling him he's going to remember this for later. Adam gets in his face and dares him to. Francis walks away. Virgil goes to thank Adam, but Adam looks to him and says, "You owe me." He plays on the fact that he's dating Virgil's older sister and convinces Virgil to come meet with him later that night. This idea clearly upsets Virgil, but he takes him up on it, wanting to trust the man who's dating his sister. Richie urges his best friend that this is a bad idea, but Virgil says he's going because he trusts Adam. After returning home and having dinner that night, Virgil sneaks out of his bedroom window. We watch him walk a couple houses down, where he meets Adam, who is waiting in his brother's car. He turns it on, Virgil hops in, and the two of them drive to Adam's hangout. When they get there, Virgil sees that this is a recruitment drive for the gang, and he even recognizes several of his fellow students from school. Everyone is mumbling, wondering what is going on, and that is when Ivan walks in. The entire room goes quiet around him. He stands before everyone, and he makes his speech about how this city belongs to them. During the speech, we see several of the people in attendance, Virgil included, growing more and more uncomfortable with what's going on. And Ivan senses this energy shift in the room, which is why he emphasizes to everyone there that this isn't an option. This isn't an invitation to the gang. They're in. But Virgil speaks out, saying that they can't do this. And Ivan stares directly at Virgil, remembering him as his brother's girlfriend's little brother, the son of the professor. And he says to Virgil that he's right. They can't make him do anything. But he has a feeling that Virgil is going to come anyways. And he leaves it at that and walks away. Adam smacks Virgil in the shoulder and says that it was very stupid to say something like that to his brother. He urges Virgil to just keep his head down and stay by his side. He promised Sharon that he'd keep him safe, and he will keep that promise. Virgil heads back home, very clearly distraught about this entire situation. The next day, we see Virgil and Richie talking about the entire ordeal, and Virgil is considering just not going. He doesn't care what Ivan ends up doing to him. He can't go through with this. And that is when we cut to Milestone University, the local college, where Robert Hawkins, Virgil's father, is a professor. And as he's teaching, he hears something outside his window. An engine rev up very loudly. He looks outside, and we see Ivan Evans in his purple car, revving his engine, staring directly through the window into Robert's eyes. That night at dinner, Robert brings up that story, and Virgil knows whose car that is. It was one thing if Ivan was threatening him, but that was a threat against his family. So Virgil decides to go to the Big Bang. But he grapples with the decision for a while, and he heads out late. And then we cut to the events of the Big Bang. The first gang shows up, ambushing the second, but then the third show up, and then the fourth, and then the fifth. And that is when Ivan and his gang pop out, firing at all of them. It is a hail of gunfire. The entire city is lit up. And we see that it all starts going down when Virgil is only a couple blocks away. Violence spills onto the Dakota streets as the gang war known as the Big Bang is in full effect. During this, we see that Adam is reluctant to fire at the other gangs. He has no problem returning fire if they're shooting at him, but if they're not, he can't quite bring himself to shoot at them, something his brother picks up on immediately. Ivan grabs his younger brother and urges him to remember that this is okay, because this is what they want. And as the shootout continues, the police show up. We see armored SWAT members all step out of their vehicles and pull out weird-looking gas canisters. We see the name Stag Industries printed on all of the canisters. And then they open up fire on the gang. Thick purple smoke begins to spread throughout everyone there, and they all start violently coughing and collapsing. Many people see this and try to run, and as Adam and Ivan's gang are running away, Adam notices Virgil. Virgil is down an alleyway trying to get over a fence. Adam sees the police coming and realizes he just can't leave this kid alone. So he runs down the alley, grabs Virgil, and helps throw him over the fence, as one of the SWAT members fires a gas canister grenade down it. Virgil is thanking Adam while Adam is climbing over the fence following Virgil. They are trying to both get out of there, but the gas seeps out, and they both inhale a pretty big whiff. Adam urges Virgil to run for it, and Adam runs to go meet up with his brother and the rest of his gang. We see that several of the other gang members had fallen unconscious instantly when exposed to the gas, and the Dakota City Police Department are cleaning them up to take them in, including Francis Stone. We cut back to Ivan and Adam, and we see them get away. A handful of their crew came with them, and they all begin to cheer, because even though the cops showed up, they got away. They killed a lot of their competitors, and even more of them got taken in by the police, which we find out Ivan tipped off. But as they are all high-fiving and celebrating their success, they begin to cough. At first, they think it's just side effects from the gas, but then they keep coughing harder and harder, and we see Ivan cough up black liquid. Everyone then collapses, screaming in pain. We see two members' skin begin to break out in horrible blisters and rashes. Another man's hands begin to break and rearrange. And Ivan and Adam look at each other as they begin to melt. We cut to the Dakota City Police lockup, and we see many of the other gang members suffering similar symptoms. We see Francis Stone sweating profusely. He is banging on his cell bars, screaming for someone to bring him some water because he feels so hot. And then we cut back to Virgil as he is returning home. He is climbing back into his window, and he is coughing violently. We see that he is sweaty, there are bags under his eyes, and he is clearly not doing well. He chugs a huge glass of water and collapses into bed, coughing violently before losing consciousness. But Virgil wakes up the next morning feeling pretty good, until he sits up out of bed and finds that all of his sheets are clinging to his body. We watch as he struggles and scrambles to get out of bed, and every time he touches something new, it clings to him too, but seemingly through nothing. And when he gets into the bathroom, we see that his electric razor and his toothbrush and his hair dryer, all the electronics in the bathroom begin going off. before he's had a chance to plug them in. He goes to turn on the water to his sink, and we see an electrical spark jump from his hand to the sink, and Virgil reacts in pain. We watch as Virgil tries to go through his daily routine with everything static clinging to his body. And as he gets downstairs, he finds his father watching the morning news. They are reporting on the Big Bang from last night. And Robert asks if Virgil could hear anything from his room. Virgil shakes his head, no. And Robert says what a tragedy it is that happened. So many kids lost their lives. Virgil tries to say, maybe they just went because they didn't feel like they had a choice. And Robert scowls at his son and says, you always have a choice. Virgil feels sheepish and heads to school. We see that Richie has bolted over to his friend's house this morning to make sure that his best buddy is okay. He was worried about him. And Virgil tells Richie that things were weird today. And as they're walking, Richie notices the strange behavior that his best friend is exhibiting. As they are walking to school, Richie begins performing very rudimentary experiments on his friend, mainly seeing what kind of gear from his backpack will stick to his best friend. And when they get to school, during science class, Richie borrows some instruments, and we see him begin to test his friend out. And Richie realizes that Virgil is giving off a heavy electrostatic field. Virgil asks his friend what that means, and Richie explains it's basically like when you are wearing socks and you rub your feet on a wool carpet and just really go to town to shock someone. It's like you've been doing that for a year, and Richie theorizes to his friend that this could be a superpower. Virgil does confirm that the metagene is in his DNA from when he took a DNA test a couple years ago. And Richie smacks his best friend in the shoulder and says to him, dude, you have frickin' superpowers. After school, we watch as Richie assembles rather complex instruments to measure his friend's new abilities. The tests begin rather practical, with things like seeing if Virgil could use his abilities to charge an electronic if he's holding on to a charging cable, which he can. They test whether or not Virgil can touch metal. He can, but there is a noticeable spark when he does. But this time, Virgil doesn't react in pain, realizing that it didn't hurt earlier either. It was more just shocking, in the not literal sense, but also, yes, the literal sense. Richie asks his friend to try and rein in the spark when he goes to touch something, to see if they could maybe get around this. We see Virgil try, but when he does, the piece of metal that they were experimenting on flings into Virgil's hands. And the boys realize Virgil essentially has the Force. Richie's mind begins to race, and he realizes that his best friend can exude electrostatic charges and control his own electromagnetic spectrum, meaning that this guy should be able to levitate metal and maybe even shoot lightning, just like, and the boys say in unison, Black Lightning. Boys pull up an old YouTube-style documentary about Black Lightning, Dakota's lost hero. He was around about 14 years ago, but 10 years ago, he completely vanished, and no one knows why. And Virgil remembers that very well, because Black Lightning was not only his favorite superhero when he was a little kid, but Black Lightning vanished the same year he lost his mom. The boys get back to watching the documentary to get to the part they were watching it for. An uninterrupted fight scene captured on CCTV where Black Lightning uses all of his abilities. Virgil tries to recreate one of Black Lightning's electrical blasts, and after a couple attempts, he is able to perfectly recreate it. The boys are overjoyed, but they wonder what could have triggered the awakening of Virgil's metagene. And that is when we cut back to the hideout of Ivan and Adam Evans. Adam is being shaken awake. The warehouse is full of noise, and Adam is wondering what's going on. And as he stands up to look, he sees the members of their gang that collapsed last night in horrible pain We're all up, standing, and healthy now. But not just healthy, super. We see one man whose feet have grown several times larger than normal, as he is leaping 30 feet in the air and landing back down in a crushing thud. We see another man whose arms can turn into sharp, glowing blades. We see a woman who is mutated into some sort of harpy beast. We see one woman who can shift into water. We see another large, muscular woman who can turn into stone. We see a large man whose skin has turned into some sort of thick hide. We see one girl turn into smoke. And we see another man flying on streams of air. The rest of the gang who did not receive powers are all watching in awe. Adam begins desperately looking around for his brother, and we see that his foot has fallen asleep. He is trying to shake it back awake while desperately looking and asking everyone where his brother is. And then Ivan's voice begins to echo from around everyone. And everyone stops. Ivan is laughing. It truly sounds like his voice is coming from every single direction. Everyone is looking around trying to spot him, but they can't. And suddenly, all of the shadows in the entire warehouse begin to coalesce. And rising out of them is a man made out of pure darkness. It's Ivan. Ivan is talking about how amazing he feels and what a gift this is. He never planned for something like this, and he doesn't want to look this gift horse in the mouth. He looks out to his gang and tells all of them that with these powers, they are going to be unstoppable. Adam urges his brother to think about what this could possibly mean. He is trying to urge his brother to use his powers responsibly. But the whole time while Adam is speaking, it's clear that he doesn't think that he received any powers. But Ivan appears beside his brother and points down at his foot. Adam looks down and realizes that his foot, when it fell asleep, stayed where it was, and his leg has stretched to where he's standing now like a long piece of rubber. And Ivan tells his brother that this whole time, their gang has never been taken seriously. But with powers like these, everyone is going to take them seriously. We see that Adam is conflicted, but he decides to trust his brother. And then we cut back to the Dakota Police Department lockup, where we see several prisoners there as well have developed abilities, and the guards are freaking out trying to control it, and they are wondering who they are supposed to call for something like this. And as they are freaking out, we pan over to Francis's cell, where we see the back wall has been completely melted through, and Francis is nowhere to be seen. We once again cut back to Virgil and Richie as they are discussing what Virgil intends to do with his new powers. Does he think that maybe he'll try and become a superhero? But Virgil admits he's a little scared too. That seems really dangerous, and he's just a kid, so what is he supposed to do? We see that the boys are practicing more and more with Virgil's levitation powers. We see that already Virgil is able to pretty finely manipulate larger metallic objects through the air. And as Virgil says to his friend that he'll think about being a superhero, but for now, let's just keep practicing with these powers. And just as they're about to resume practice, there is a massive explosion a couple blocks away. We cut to downtown Dakota, and we see Francis. His eyes are glowing, his head is on fire, and he is hurling fireballs at everyone, laughing like a maniac. Francis is hurling balls of fire that erupt into massive explosions through windows of businesses, at cars passing by. He is terrorizing this city. Virgil and Richie turn the corner and see this happening from several blocks away. The boys wonder if this is something that Superman or the Flash will show up to stop. But these boys know that both of those heroes are busy. Superman is over stopping a genocide in the country of Cosnia, and the Flash is reported to be down in the Philippines helping after the aftermath of a hurricane. Dakota has no one to help them with this. And Virgil and Richie look at each other. Virgil is clearly scared, but when he hears the screams of innocent people running for their lives from Francis, he knows he can't just stand by and do nothing. He takes his coat off, rips it apart, and covers his face with it. He looks to Richie and asks if it looks good, and Richie says, "Yeah, very masked aviator." And Virgil runs down the street. But as he's running, Richie yells at him, "Do the thing!" And Virgil leaps onto a manhole cover and begins to levitate it beneath his feet. He is now flying, and he takes off towards Francis's rampage. Francis is still terrorizing downtown when Virgil hits him in the back of the head with a bolt of lightning and makes a quip. And so the two super teens begin to fight it out in the Dakota streets. Virgil manages to save several people from Francis's stray fireballs, and Virgil ends the fight by raising his hands and wrapping two light poles across the street from one another around Francis. He then rips the cap off of a fire hydrant and constructs a makeshift shower, dousing the fiery boy, keeping his flames out. And the civilians begin to cheer. Just as the police arrive, Virgil makes sure to take off, and he returns down the street to his friend, and the two of them high five. As Virgil and Richie return to Virgil's home, they see that the news is on. Robert and Sharon are watching it. Sharon is cheering for the new hero, who she has dubbed Little Lightning, but Robert is watching it distressed. The news is reporting on what they are now referring to as bang babies. Several of the gang members from last night's Big Bang seem to have been mutated, and for whatever reason have manifested superpowers. The fight that they see on screen, the newscasters suppose, is a fight between two rival gang members who had escaped jail just moments earlier. Virgil is a little heartbroken, seeing that that is what the assumption is on the news. And Sharon calls bullcrap on that, saying clearly Little Lightning is trying to save people in that clip. And we see that his older sister's words have bolstered his spirit a bit. And Virgil and Richie decide to head upstairs. We then cut back to the headquarters of Ivan and his gang, and we see that they are also watching the news. Ivan knew that it was too good to be true that only they got powers out of this whole deal, which means that they are going to have to be the best with theirs. And he orders everyone in his gang who developed powers to begin training, and hard. And back with Virgil and Richie, we see that the two of them have begun designing superhero costumes. We see sketches and rudimentary attempts at very famous static costumes from the comics and the show. Virgil insists that his suit needs to have a mix of black, yellow, and blue, just like Black Lightning's. And they finally settle on a sleek design with a hair-free cowl, welding goggles to protect his eyes from the bright sparks that he can create, a really cool jacket, and of course, he will be hovering the entire time on a manhole cover. We see that the boys construct this suit out of arc flash and welding gear that they get from local hardware stores and online. We see them watching YouTube tutorials trying to figure out how to sew clothes and them struggling horribly with it. And as the suit slowly comes together more and more, we see that Virgil is thinking, what is he going to call himself? He is sitting there with a pad of paper where we see many sketches of concept symbols. And while he is thinking, Richie is in the background going on and on about how nuanced Virgil's powers are. I mean, that control over the electrostatic field, the electrostatic power, his electrostatic abilities. And we see Virgil look at a picture of Black Lightning from the CCTV, then look at a picture of Barry Allen, the Flash, then a picture of Superman, And Virgil draws a large electrical S on his pad, whips around to Richie, and says, "Static." And a little while later, we see Virgil step out wearing his static suit. And he and Richie do a little victory dance about how awesome he looks. The designing of that suit took several weeks, and we see that during these several weeks, everything has been rather quiet in Dakota City. Gang violence is severely down because almost all of them were arrested during the Big Bang, and Ivan and his gang have been training, and now they think that they are ready to make their debut. And of course, at the same time, Virgil is ready to make his. An evening after school, Virgil heads out onto the city to try and make a name for himself. We get a series of crimes for him to stop, even, of course, him getting a cat out of a tree. But when he hands the cat back to the little girl who owns it, the cat's hair has gone completely stuck up on end from being overcharged with static electricity. And back with the now newly dubbed Metabreed, Ivan and the rest of his gang have hit the scene and are cleaning up their mess, wiping out the remaining gangs. But during this rampage, Adam keeps trying to stop his brother, insisting that they have the power already. They don't need to keep doing this. People will respect them. But Ivan insists that this is the only way for them to keep that respect. And Adam just keeps asking his brother, what is the end goal here? What does he want? Does he genuinely think that they're going to take over this city or take over the world and not manage to draw the attention of Superman or the Flash? They're going to piss off really powerful people. And when he says that, Ivan loses it, insisting that he is really powerful. And that is when Static arrives on the scene. And Static's existence baffles Ivan. He doesn't get it. Why is this kid trying to stop them? Why is this kid helping people? They're not Superman. They live in the real world. And during this fight, Static recognizes the gang as Ivan and Evan's gang. The entire Metabreed leap on Static, but the only ones that manage to cause him any real trouble are those with projectiles or those that can get up to where he is. He bobs and weaves and blasts and zaps, and eventually the Metabreed are going on the retreat. This kid is unfortunately too good. But as Static is fighting, he starts to realize that he's running out of juice, and he needs to recharge. Richie is back at home watching everything, serving as Static's guy in the chair. He is watching everything through a camera they outfitted on Static's goggles and speaking to Static through an earpiece, and he urges his friend to try and touch one of the electrical cables nearby to siphon off some juice. Static does, and unfortunately, Static has never tried to charge from this powerful of a source before, and he finds that he can absorb most of the city's power. It overloads his system, and he collapses onto the ground, and causes a blackout, which gives Ivan a huge power boost. Ivan grows into a shadowy giant, and scoops Static up into his hands, and begins to crush the young boy. Static screams in pain, but as he is screaming, we see his skeleton beneath his skin begin to glow. And as Ivan squeezes as hard as he can, Static explodes in a giant burst of electromagnetic energy. The bright light shrinks Ivan back down to normal size, and the concussive blast knocks the rest of the Metabreed off to the side. Metabreed are all picking themselves up just as the police arrive, and they decide to book it, leaving Static. And as Static is trying to pick himself up, the police corner him. Virgil tries to explain that he wasn't there taking part in the crime, he was there trying to stop it. And the civilians around try to corroborate this story, but the police are hearing none of it, and they are ordering Static to get down on the ground. Virgil insists that he had nothing to do with this and that he is a hero. He is trying to help, and the cops don't believe him. They look around at all of this destruction and they blame it solely on him, lumping him in with the rest of the Metabreed. And as Virgil is getting more and more stressed out, a small bolt of electricity jumps off of his body onto the ground. And this scares a police officer, who opens fire on the boy. We hear the bang and everything else goes silent. Virgil is standing there, tears in his eyes, and hovering inches away from his head is a bullet. His electromagnetic bubble just barely managed to catch it. And then the rest of the police open fire. Bullets rain down on Virgil, but all of them are caught by his bubble. And Virgil begins to cry as he realizes that the police just tried to kill him for helping. Virgil takes off into the sky and flies back home. He is distraught. Once again, he returns home and goes in through his bedroom window, where he finds his phone blown up with texts from Richie, checking in on him, seeing if he is okay. Virgil responds, "Yeah, I'm fine. I don't really want to talk about it." And he goes downstairs, where he finds his dad and his sister once again watching the news. Footage of what the police tried to do to Static appears on the screen. We see that Sharon is completely shocked and outraged by this, and we see that Robert, unfortunately, expected that reaction. He shakes his head and says, "Same thing that happened with Black Lightning." He turns and sees his son distraught, and he asks if he saw the news. Virgil nods, and Robert takes his son and tries to explain to him the sad truth of the world. They have a long, meaningful conversation, and Robert insists with his son that just because this happened doesn't mean that heroes that look like them shouldn't exist, or shouldn't try to make a difference. It is just much, much harder to do so, which is why he is so proud of that boy on the news. And he says that while he personally doesn't agree with masked vigilantism, people trying to do good, people trying to help and make a real difference, people like that inspire him. Virgil smiles at his dad and asks him, "So do you think that Static guy is gonna go back out there after something like this?" And Robert just shrugs, saying that he truly doesn't know. Stuff like this could be really, really discouraging. So if Static were to go back out there, he'd have to be one strong person. And we see that Virgil feels a lot better. We cut back to the Metabreed's hideout, and Ivan is throwing a fit. How could one person, how could one child beat all of them together? Ivan feels powerless at this moment, and that is not something he will put up with for long. And Ivan's mind begins to race. Adam goes to his brother and tries once again to talk him down, but he can see that his brother is already too far gone. Adam decides to leave for a while, and he heads to go see Sharon. Sharon is upset with him because he has more or less ghosted her since the events of the Big Bang. She thought for a while that he had died, but he is there to tell her that he didn't, but he's really scared for his brother. Sharon tells him that he just needs to leave that man behind and look out for himself. But Adam says that he just can't. It's his brother. He doesn't have a choice. But Sharon reiterates the words of her father to him and says, "You always have a choice." Adam stops and tells Sharon that he is going to have to think about that. But for now, he has to go and be with his brother. And as he's leaving, he sees Virgil standing in the back, watching this interaction. Adam nods to Virgil in a sort of "what's up" motion, and Virgil gives him a nod in response that totally reads as a "I know what's up." Adam is confused, and he walks away, going back home. We then cut to downtown, where we see armored trucks pull up to the police department. They are labeled Argus, and stepping out of one is Amanda Waller. She walks into the police precinct, and she announces that she is going to be taking over the Bang Baby debacle. Every single one of the metahuman prisoners they currently have are going to be transferred to Belle Rev Penitentiary, and she will be sending out her own special task force to hunt down the remaining criminals. The chief of the Dakota PD asks her how she intends to capture all of these guys, and Amanda Waller pulls out a metahuman power inhibiting collar, manufactured by LexCorp. The next day, a report goes out, letting everyone in Dakota know that the Bang Babies were created by an experimental gas manufactured by Stag Industries. It was a new strain of tear gas intended for the police department. But what they didn't know is that when presented to metahumans, it triggers a sort of anaphylactic shock for the metahuman gene, which causes the once dormant gene to activate. They urge the public of Dakota to call in and report anyone they know that was in the proximity of the Big Bang that night, because any one of your neighbors could possibly be a dangerous metahuman. We see citizens of Dakota dragged out of their homes, reported by their friends, family, and neighbors. They are not given due process. They are thrown in vans, taken away, and have collars slapped on their necks. And we see both Ivan and Virgil leap into action because of this. Virgil goes back out on the scene and this time is directly opposing law enforcement. He is flipping over vans, he is draining their batteries, he is zapping off the metahuman inhibition collars, he is freeing innocent people. But while this is happening, Static is jumped once again by the Metabreed. Only this time, Ivan is nowhere to be seen. Static is once again getting the upper hand, but then we cut to the Dakota City power plant, and we see where Ivan is. The power plant employees run in fear as the shadows in the room coalesce into the shape of Ivan Evans, and he begins destroying everything. Back outside, we watch as the city of Dakota goes completely dark. And finally, the neighborhood where Static is fighting against the Metabreed goes out. Static is running low, and there is now nowhere for him to recharge his abilities. And as the darkness surrounds him, Ivan Evans steps out of it. Ivan lets out an empowered yell as he begins to grow to kaiju-style proportions. Ivan begins crushing buildings and yelling about how he is the most powerful metahuman on the planet. Everyone just thought he was small time, but now he is bigger than them all. He is darkness. He is shadow. He is Ebon. But as he is rampaging and destroying things, some of the rubble begins to hit the Metabreed, and they realize that their boss doesn't care about them anymore. He only cared about making himself more powerful. But as Ivan is ranting, he gets hit in the face with a ball of electricity. Static is back on his feet and trying to fight off this shadowy monster. The two of them trade blows back and forth, but Static is having trouble seeing where Ebon's attacks are coming from, as he is the darkness itself. And eventually, once again, Ebon catches Static in his hand. Static tries to reason with Ebon, asking him why he is doing all of this and what his end goal is. Exactly the same thing that Adam had said to his brother earlier. But Virgil continues, telling Ivan that he doesn't have to do this. Everyone knows that he's powerful, but he can walk away from this. He is so powerful that no one can mess with him, so why does he feel the need to mess with others? But Ivan responds that he isn't doing it because he wants to. He's doing it because this is the way the world works. The powerful get what they want, and the weak don't. That is just the way the world works. They don't have a choice in that. But Static yells at him that they always have a choice. And we see Adam, eyes go wide, as he realizes who Static is. He sees his girlfriend's younger brother being crushed to death by his older brother in front of him. And Adam cannot stand by and do nothing. because he realizes he does have a choice here. And Adam pulls out his phone and turns on the flashlight. He then looks around at all of the civilians that Static had been helping, and even the other members of the Metabreed, and tells them to all turn on their lights. Everyone pulls out their phones and turns on their lights. Not only does this amount of light begin to weaken Ebon, but Static realizes this is a power source. Static raises his hands, and we see him draw the electricity out of everybody's phones, absorbing it into himself. We once again see his skeleton begin to glow, and this time he holds on tight to Ebon's hand, and he erupts. There is an explosion of electrical light. Ebon's massive form shatters into his normal-sized form, and he begins to fall from the sky with Static. But Static is completely out of juice. And just before he crashes into the ground, Adam leaps up and cushions Static's fall with his rubber superpowers. The citizens of Dakota City all gather round Static and begin to cheer for the man that saved them. And upon getting close up, they realize that this man is a teenage kid. Just then, the red and blue sirens of more Argus forces arrive, and the people stand between Argus and Static. The agents of Argus ask where the two metahumans are, and the citizens all insist that Static flew away after defeating the Shadow Monster. The Argus agents look around, and they see no sign of Static. And we see that Adam Evans had super-stretched Static up to a rooftop and dropped him there. Unable to find Static, the agents turn their attention to Ivan Evans, and one of them slaps a metahuman inhibition collar around his neck. And we watch as Ivan reverts back to his normal human-looking form. He is taken into custody by the agents of Argus, as are several of the other members of the Metabreed. But Adam gets away. Static comes to on the rooftop, and he sees that he is being watched over by Adam. Adam makes sure that Static is doing okay, and Static confirms that he is. And he asks Adam why he did that for him. And Adam turns, looks at Static, and tells him, "Because I realized I did have a choice. I promised your sister that I'd protect you. I keep my promises." And Virgil realizes that Adam knows his secret identity. Adam looks Static up and down and says, "I really liked Black Lightning growing up, too." And Virgil smiles and says, "Yeah, he was really cool." Virgil looks at Adam and asks him what he's going to do from here on out. And Adam explains he doesn't know. But what he's not going to do is follow in his brother's footsteps anymore. He thinks he's going to just try and be himself for a while. Static and Adam decide to head back to his house together. The film wraps up with us seeing life in Dakota City return to some sort of normal. The metahuman gang members have all been transferred to Belle Rev Penitentiary. We see as an Argus agent approaches Amanda Waller and asks her what they're supposed to do about Static, as he is still at large. And Amanda Waller looks at the video footage of Static defeating Ebon and says, "Leave him be, for now." And they pack up and leave the city. And a new day dawns. Virgil wakes up. He does his morning routine, now using his powers to their full extent to make his routine go faster. He goes downstairs and has breakfast with his family. They head outside. We see Sharon meet up with Adam. They hop into now his car as he blasts Rubber Band Man as they drive off. Virgil and Richie meet back up and head to school. But as they're walking, they hear a scream, and a car goes flying down the street, being pursued by the police. Virgil and Richie look at each other. Virgil dips in to a nearby alleyway and flies out in his static suit atop a floating garbage can lid, and he takes off down the street in pursuit. And that is Static in my DC cinematic universe. Thank you so much for listening.